one now. In today's world, we live in a society where each household is dependent on numerous amounts of technology to make their living and to make their lives as convenient as it can possibly be. As you know, most devices, most gadgets, and most appliances we use on a daily basis consume energy from fossil fuels. In the Philippines, where my fellow speaker and I are from, we actually consume around 80% of all the energy resources we use actually come from fossil fuels. And as you know, fossil fuels actually when used, when emitted, let's say from an exhaust of a vehicle, these contribute to the carbon emissions of these contribute to the carbon emissions that the Philippines emits. So here in government, we believe that the fight on climate change should focus on developing technological solutions that will make the lives of the people as convenient or maybe even more convenient, yet at the same time, they're also going to be more environmentally friendly. But before I proceed to the rest of my speech, I would like to define a few terms so that every single person here may understand what it is I am talking about. So first, I would like to talk about the effects of climate change. So as we all know, the effects of climate change would include like the drastic changings of patterns in the climate on a yearly basis. So as a result, there would be like rising temperatures and we all, of course, we always hear about rising sea levels, and we also hear about like people being affected by these natural calamities. So obviously, we know that if we leave these unchecked, this will cause irreversible damage to the planet. And to this, we say that in order for us to have a chance against fighting against this, we need long-term solutions. And speaking of solutions, I would like to talk about technological solutions. So this would refer to entirely new technologies or innovations of things we use today, but modified to be more environment friendly than their previous counterparts, such as electric vehicles. So this would count, for example, like people either making completely new cars or like maybe even making electric versions of the existing models. So And lastly, we would like to talk about sustainable lifestyle. So we would define this as the promotion of a zero waste movement, a carbon tax, or any policy that is made with the intent to discourage the use of fossil fuels or anything that pollutes the environment. So yes, this either comes in the form of the movements, as we've already said, or simply supporting legislation that would basically force this kind of behavior on the actors, on the people living in a certain country. So now I would like to define the problem. So the problem we see in the status quo is that people said yes, we have a lot of people who are active in fighting against climate change by, as I've said, promoting legislation that supports a sustainable lifestyle. But as we will explain, these will remain ineffective due to how people are used to living their lives. So the problem is not simply climate change itself, but rather how we are addressing the problems here. And this is in what we are in government. This is what we are proposing. So to solve this, at least mitigate these effects of climate change, we believe that the solutions we should be focused on should be focused on creating technological solutions that the people will easily accept and integrate into their daily lives. Here is why. So first argument is that the green technology is more stable and certain that promoting sustainable lifestyles, since the latter is entirely dependent on human decisions. Because let's face it, people are stubborn and don't listen. We see this for example, I would like to give a specific scenario because if you haven't heard, the car company Volkswagen, they've actually been involved in a recent scandal wherein they've been actually cheating their emissions test, because despite all of these legislations, these companies will still try to find a way around it. In this case, that what I'm describing, what happened here is that Volkswagen has been secretly cheating their emissions test by making their emissions lower during tests but much higher when they are on the road. Next, green tech is not and next, this point still stands because green tech is still not contingent on human behavior, i.e., its effectivity is contingent on the product or machinery itself. This is beneficial to the person because while the person may not necessarily think about the go.
You said green technology is not contingent to human behavior. How could it sustain when people still don't care about the environment? How then you will still be able to solve every single problem?
Wait, I'm sorry. I actually didn't understand that. So yes, I will be. Yes, so yes, I'll be proceeding to my speech. So yes, anyway, to my last point, this argument, and lastly, I would like to say that green technology is likely to have a bigger impact on society than the promotion of a sustainable lifestyle, since we already see so many of these innovations in today's world. Moving back to the example of green technologies, for example, Ford actually has developed a new platform wherein they're creating a bunch of vehicles under it, and sure, some of them still may use fossil fuels, but they're beginning to use this platform in things such as their electric SUV, such as the Mach-E. So second argument is that sustainable lifestyles will not work, since if there's no technology to back it, because this is to say that even if people were up into these kinds of lifestyle without the necessary technologies to back it, the effects of such lifestyles will harbor no tangible impact. This is because people naturally tend to choose what is more convenient, and if simply that sustainable lifestyle isn't convenient for them, they will simply opt to revert back to a lifestyle that emits a lot of carbon emissions. And with this, I am proud to open this debate for the government side. Thank you.
Thank you for that fine speech. Now to open the case for off bench, I invite Leader of Opposition. Here.
Am I audible?
You're loud and clear.
All right, wonderful. Wait. Okay, my POI preference is just unmute yourself because I'm not be checking the chat box. And also I don't have any preferred gender pronouns, so you can just refer it any way you want. Okay, wait a second. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Look, when it comes to environmental movement, we think that this debate has been under-contextualized. Let us develop this context that has been existing in this debate. First, we do believe that the fight on climate change takes so many manifestations. We believe that the core idea of a fight of climate change is to ensure that there are policies or agreements between governments or even the people themselves that reduce emissions in ways possible. We will contextualize our case on how promoting sustainable lifestyle eventually manifests on policies about carbon tax, zero carbon footprint in the European Union, the Green New Deal in the US, and so many other countries that has implemented a lot of green ideas to keep their policies keep on going, and also to prevent the climate change to get any worse to begin with. Why is that so? Because we believe that lifestyle is the exact case on how climate change happened. It is due to the consumerism that has been rotting the planet for decades or even centuries since the first industrial revolution, right? And we do believe that our stance here as the opening opposition is to keep this progress going on how consumerism has been degrading, on how consumerism has been trying to be replaced by promoted sustainable lifestyle that has been campaigned or even supported by political parties that had that had been not green for the last decades to begin with, that started to adopt green policies in order for them to stay afloat and stay voted to begin
POI.
with. Now, to these kinds of goals, any POI? Yes, Reverend Cole.
Okay, you said that this thing is contingent on agreements. How will this work if people don't follow these agreements? Please engage with my opening.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, this is exactly what we are going to elaborate in this debate, right? Now, our solution here is that we don't disagree that when it comes to technological development is something that is bad or anything, but we do believe that technological development is contingent or can only be manifested if the people change their lifestyle. How do electric cars or whatever the government proposed suddenly become attainable for the people? It is something that is exactly due to the people's lifestyle. We do believe that electric cars or anything that the government's proposed is something that is less practical than gas cars, right? Now, how do people suddenly change to this? It is due to their lifestyle, right? They are aware that their lifestyle is something that is going to erode the planet. Therefore, they will trade in the practicality of a gas car for electric car to begin with. And we do believe that even that is not enough to begin with. Now, we will extend these ideas. Our first premise on how technology or any technological development, say climate engineering, say electric cars, say wind power, say solar power or anything, we do believe that this is due to the regulations that is happening. How do companies started to shift from fuel or fossil burning into electric and also wind power? It is due to the regulations that has been enacted. Now, how do these regulations that's been enacted? We are talking about carbon tax that disincentivize companies from burning a lot of fossil fuels and shifting to better technology. Now, this is due to the masses that has been supporting a lot of environmental programs, environmental policies that has been campaigned by the parties or even by social movements and even by the people themselves and even by NGO themselves, right? Now, without these people being aware of this kind of cases appear, therefore the technological change will not also change to begin with, right? So regulations enact due to the masses and the masses are bound by their lifestyle. Therefore, our campaign of lifestyle and also how we are putting a lot of advertisements and also campaigning through social media and even TikTok as well right now is something that's changing the people, changing the regulations, therefore finally manifesting in changing technology. And eventually it's going to be worse on the government side because the technology is not going to be develop well, right? Let's imagine a huge investment on technological changes of electric cars, for example. Without people being aware that it is something useful, they don't want to trade their old 5-liter Mustang for a Tesla, for example, right? They don't want to change to wind power for their house that has been burning coal for a lot of decades because it is something really practical due to the idea of consumerism. Therefore, the change is actually happening from the people, and exactly it is something that is more sustainable in the long run. Why? Exactly my second point. We think that technology will only develop due to the demand of the masses, and exactly how these things are developed because the masses actually want it and suddenly want to buy it in the long run. Therefore, any technological development, any shifting to the technological changes that is considerably less practical at the moment is due to the masses that are aware of these kinds of changes. Now, we do believe that our case also do have some trade-off. We do believe that at our worst case scenario on how our lifestyle is not seen as something good or something attainable for the masses, we do believe that even in that worst case scenario, there are still subtle changes, right? Because we do believe that there is at least a less demand, or there is a fear towards climate change, that we do believe that this is something that there is no growing demand of the tech development that could accelerate the ability to develop usable tech. What do we mean by this? We do believe that when it comes to people being disincentivized to use their old lifestyle and also do unsustainable lifestyle to begin with, therefore we do believe that there is no existence of how people will demand a lot of tech development due to the over bloating consumerism that has also accelerated the development of technology to begin with. And even if we invest a lot on this kind of technology, we see how how abundant capitalism has gave us on how we develop technology, but we do believe that this is not even enough to over accelerate the climate change that has been existing to begin with, right? So we do believe that it is not something that is necessary, and even going to be harming the planet, because anything those scientists' work will also be in vain to begin with. Therefore, we do believe that this kind of lifestyle, carbon taxes, and so on will eventually manifest in a good way. That will also be explained by my second speaker later on. So our key responses towards the government bench here is that this convenient and also Dieselgate whatever could only be happen if the people are interested if the people are interested in regulating these companies. Therefore, they will vote for policies that actually change the behavior of the companies exactly due to their contextualization that these companies are stubborn. We oppose.
I thank leader of for that fine speech. Now to continue the case for opening government, I invite Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
Hello, am I audible?
You're loud and clear.
Thank you very much. I'll take POIs through voice, though I'll likely take you at the 5th or 6th minute. Please don't badger pronouns he, him. I'll be starting at the other set of my timer. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, in a fight for climate change that affects the entirety of our planet, what the planet needs or what society needs are large sustainable goals that drive the sustainable impact that impacts the society in a way that would look towards the future of the planet and of society in the long run, right? What my first speaker already told you is that these kinds of green technology gives us this. This kind of green technology is not contingent on human behavior, and therefore is effective insofar as the technology is developed well. The reason why he brought up that these sustainable life movements are ineffective is because these kinds of movements, these kinds of policies and agreements made by the government, made by these peoples, and made by societies are contingent on the behavior of people. This is to say that it is effective insofar as people would likely opt into it. Before I move on to my constructives, let me move on to a few rebuttals, right? First idea, what is the point of these agreements if people don't follow them at the end of the day? The problem is consumerism, and we acknowledge that, and movements against this haven't worked. Note panel how opposition never proved to you what the likelihood of these kinds of movements working on their side, and they never gave you the likelihood of these actually being successful given the failures that we've already seen in society. These policies, as I've already said, are contingent on human behavior. This is to say that all these policies that Op mentions will only work insofar as the people think they should opt into them. We already see these movements such as removing plastic from restaurants or segregation have not been effective. They never proved us why at the end of the day it will be effective in society, and they never proved us what change this will make at the end of the day. Now, I'll be answering the attainability of this kind of green technology later in my constructives. Now, second point of rebuttal, how exactly do companies shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy, right? They pose this burden onto us. We think that this is a fail. We think that we are able to do this given that this kind of green technology would exist at the end of the day. But sure, I'll explain that later on in my constructive, how exactly these corporations will be able to shift societal impact and at the end of the day, move to sustainable development, right? Now, I'll give you two things in my speech. Firstly, why it is in the best interest of companies and corporations to opt into or invest into this kinds of green technology, and why exactly these corporations are important in the first place, right? But secondly, how this change will drive long-term sustainable impact. Now, why exactly are these corporations important, right? The reason why we're more likely to solve the brunt of the issues brought about by climate change is because these are the actors, or these corporations are the actors that hold a large bargaining power in the economic and societal spheres. This is to say that an investment made by these kinds of technologies will influence the society at large. This is to say that the policies that they make based on their choices, based on the decisions that these companies and corporations make, will influence the people on the ground and those who are following these kinds of companies, right? Now that we've established that, why exactly are these companies more likely to invest in them, and why is it in their best interest, right? companies and corporations will be more incentivized to opt into these green technologies. Now, what do I mean by this? Moving into a world that is highly technological, as my first speaker has already mentioned, companies would want the most efficient and effective kinds of technologies that would help grow their businesses, right? This is the case because of the capitalist nature of these corporations. They want the most amount of profit for the least amount of effort or resources spent. Now, how exactly do we achieve this, right? This is through the shift of technology that my partner has already described. A shift in green technology where you have like solar panel roofs or electric cars or more sustainable kinds of energy development, right? Sure, I'll take you now.
We don't see any efficient work or any efficiency from shifting from fossil to wind power to begin with, right? We think that this is something that is not attractive towards this capitalist or whatever you say.
In the status quo, companies invest a large, I'll finish this point first. In the status quo, companies invest a large amount of their capital into energy. This means energy management, right? Energy that is used in their day-to-day operations, in powering their systems, powering their buildings, powering their appliances, right? Energy management is a large portion of their expenses. This is why companies are more likely to opt into this shift, because green technology is more sustainable and energy efficient. It would incur less cost for more power, and at the end of the day, give more net profit for these companies. Now, why exactly are these like consumers more likely to opt into these kinds of technology, right? Answering their POI. Well, this is where I move on to this my second extension, right? But before that, we already see the shift in companies that are supplying, no thank you, that are supplying these kinds of technologies, such as world-renowned companies like Tesla, who are already propagating these kinds of technologies throughout the world, through different corporations and through the different consumers. Now, responding directly to the PI given earlier, why exactly is this investment into green technology, and how would it drive societal change in the long run through these corporations, and how these consumers, why would these consumers more likely opt into these, or why would they be interested in them at the end of the day, right? The moment large corporations opt into these kinds of technologies as an investment is the moment society will follow suit. Now, this is to say that these companies opt into green technologies such as solar panel roofs, electric appliances, or electric cars, or whatever. My first speaker already told you, sustainably, these companies opt into these kinds of technologies as an investment. This means that they will do everything in their power to make the most out of this investment, given the capitalist nature of these companies. This is to say that these companies will end up creating policies like trade policies, economic investments, and market-based approaches that directly target the masses and the people on the ground. This is to say the companies' moves and directions that they take will cater to these consumers, will cater to the people on the ground and their best interest. So let's say that these kinds of companies are more likely to opt into the green technologies, as I've already proven from my first extension, than all of their whole direction, because it's an investment that they're more likely to opt into, will cater towards policies and directives that would buy into, or that would get the interest or garner the interest of the masses or the people following them, right? At the end of the day, these companies will end up shifting the way that society thinks. This makes the masses and society more likely to opt into these kinds of technology rather than the fossil burning fuels that OP is trying to forward to you and that OP is trying to tell you, right? Now, what exactly did I tell you in my speech today? I told you how exactly this brings long-term recovery through more sustainable technologies, why exactly corporations that have the large bargaining power in the economic perspective are more likely to opt into these kinds of things, and how these kinds of things, given the power of these companies or corporations, are more guaranteed driver of sustainable development. And for those reasons and more, I'm very proud to propose.
Thank you, DPM, for that speech. To continue the case for open opposition, I invite DLO here.
Kak, bentar ya Kak, ke toilet dulu 1 menit gitu, atau 2 menit.
Okay, sure.
Test, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Uh, Okay, I will start my speech in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Judging from the opening government speech, we could realize that right now people are actually still doing consumerism. People are actually still living in a very, very luxurious lifestyle. And what we take is that the fact that they don't want to strip it, ladies and gentlemen. What OG is actually saying to us is that we should embracing the lifestyle and actually trying to make a better technological solution. But the thing is, the way we have to get a better lifestyle, if we really want to impact the climate change, if we really want to actually make a better solution, we also need to change our lifestyle, because if we actually have the same rate of consumerism, no matter what, we are still going to make the same rate of waste. We are talking this because in the end of the day, even in US right now, they are making a really good really good technological solution, but they're still making the highest rate, the highest amount of waste, because people are not aware enough, ladies and gentlemen. Because of that, we think that in the end of the day, their arguments doesn't reflect reflect how people are actually reacting, or how in the end of the day this technological solution is actually going to improve our lifestyle, ladies and gentlemen. We do realize that technological solution is actually going to improve our lifestyle, but the question is, if we are actually doing the same rate of consumerism, how in the end of the day we could fix this? Because in the end of the day, if we actually having a different lifestyle, we could actually like only using like 2 or 3 industrial engine to actually like making stuff that we are actually selling. But if we are still making if we are still doing the same consumerism, we might not actually use 2 or 3, we might actually going to use 5, ladies and gentlemen, because there's no awareness. Moving into rebuttals first, ladies and gentlemen. I think the biggest question, one of the biggest point that opening opposition talks about is how investing in safe energy efficiency is actually going to happen under their side. But one thing that they missing is that all of this is actually created by SDGs. All of this is actually created by ISO 14001, the demand of the society, ladies and gentlemen. The reason why technological solution exists right now, because we have standardized waste monitor that actually created by scientists that actually aware of these problems, ladies and gentlemen. The reason why in US right now aluminum industries are actually making changes is because people are actually affected, ladies and gentlemen. They don't really care even if it's actually going to harm people. The fact that people are actually suing them means that people are actually showing awareness, and that's the biggest reason why in the end of the day, we actually able to show that companies sometimes don't really care about us. So we have to influence them by actually showing that we are aware, even if it exists under their side, under their side, even if safe energy efficiency exists under their side. Without awareness, in the end of the day, we're all going to be blinded by the fact that maybe the product we are actually buying is actually efficient enough. Because in the end of the day, maybe it's going to be easier for a company to just say that, yes, this is efficient, yes, we are actually making efficient product. But if we're still buying things at the same rate, in the end of the day, it's going to be harmful, ladies and gentlemen. Now, moving into my argument, what is the biggest argument that I'm going to bring, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to bring about why in the end of the day, under their side, technological solution, climate change, with only technological solution, without any kind of sustainable lifestyle first mindset, why it won't change, ladies and gentlemen. Now, how does technological solution take place under their side? First of all, continuous development based on the market, which people are actually still consuming so much thing under their side. Second of all, sustainable production, because the market demand that actually based on the market demand, because the market demand right now is actually wanting them to create even more stuff. We're talking about why in the end of the day people are still buying stainless straw because they want to collect more stainless straw, for example, or how in the end of the day they think that is actually very, very cheap, and they're actually indulging with consumerism in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And not because they want to save the earth. They're only using save earth as an excuse. The prerequisite for technological solution to work is actually to have people aware of it. They just buy one straw and not missing it at all, or how people change their lifestyle first by less incentive to buy instant food, for example, and more to like cooking, for example. Why changing to technological solution before changing our lives will lead to destruction? We could see this in greenwashing, ladies and gentlemen, or how in the end of the day in English people buy tea based on how safe they are towards the environment. We see how people react. They think that we see that people are going to buy this because it is actually safe, ladies and gentlemen. It looks eye-catching, and so they will buy it, ladies and gentlemen, and others will buy it. The problem is that people buy once and then they will buy again. For example, we are talking about how people just buy a packaged tea instead of buying tea that are not packaged, for example. And in their mind, this is kind of safe, and this is actually giving some kind of a false safetyness, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why it is actually going to be very, very harmful, because in the end of the day, they are still going to throw things away. They are still going to create waste instead of making waste that actually could easily deteriorate it, for example, or how in the end of the day, they're still buying instant noodles and stuff like that, for example. In the end of the day, the question is why sustainable lifestyle is actually important. Why in the end of the day this could lead to policy changes, ladies and gentlemen? First of all, sustainable lifestyle wants you to do less consumerism and aware on the lifestyle and the product that you get. And so it actually makes you aware of what is actually the product that you're buying is actually going to impact the society. And the policy that created by this is actually going to be helpful. Why is that so? For a policy to happen, you need to shape the mind of the people first. By making the policy of of a sustainable lifestyle, you are going to incentivize people that actually your lifestyle is actually destructive, and you have to change it right now, because right now our planet is actually on the brink of destruction. Because right now it's easy for us to say that maybe 50 years later we are not going to live on Earth anymore, because right now Earth is actually deteriorating. And with this kind of mindset, people are going to demand for policy changes over and over again. They want a better solution and stuff like that, because they know that in the end of the day, Earth could destroy because of how unsustainable we are doing right now. Because of that, we're proud to oppose. Thank you.
I thank the for that speech. So we're done with the opening half. Now to open the closing half. Welcome, member of government. Here.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yep, you're audible.
Okay, please give me a minute to set up my time. Okay, so hi. I'm Ange, and I'll be the closing government. I would like to take POIs through voice, but please don't badger me. And my pronouns are she and her. Okay, wait. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to rebut what the speaker before me said. First of all, changing the lifestyle is not the best solution in the current society. Why? Because first of all, technology has saved so much lives and solved so much problems that actually affects our lifestyle nowadays. So, as an example, it takes like our hospitals right now are much more advanced than than years ago. And an example I can give is like being able to detect a lot of this disease which can save numerous lives. An example is like taking an MRI to see a brain tumor, or having a CT scan for pneumonia. And up to this day, technology has really been something that shapes the world, and it has been something that is present in our everyday lives. And another is we can't really depend on people changing their lifestyle, because we have to accept that our life now actually revolves around technology. And another with being aware of the products that people buy. First of all, energy efficient items that are available in groceries and stores are more expensive, and not everyone in the world is rich enough to actually buy them. So we can't suddenly expect people to spend more money to actually buy these items that will save the world. For example, using bubble wraps that actually decompose by itself instead of those plastic ones, um or like buying those straw that's actually um or like buying straw instead in buying those decomposing by themselves straw instead of the plastic straws given, because they are more expensive. Like we have those available now, but why won't everyone shift to them? Because they are expensive. And with that, we are proposing to achieve sustainable lifestyle through prioritizing technological advancement by giving more budget to people in order to achieve this. And I would like to say that we cannot achieve solving environmental issues if we don't implement and prioritize technology sustainable lifestyle. I mean, if we don't prioritize technologies, and it's because sustainable lifestyle is more achievable when it's done through technology. So if we prioritize technology first, it's easier to achieve other things. As first, we we believe that we won't be able to fight climate change without making an action, and our action, which is focusing on technological solutions, is for the long run and for the future generations as well. And promoting these sustainable
I
lifestyles. Yeah.
don't you think that the reason why stainless, for example, like stainless straw right now is actually value is actually decreasing is because people are actually aware of this right now because of sustainable lifestyle?
Can you say it again? I didn't understand.
Okay, sorry. Don't you think the reason why technological solution right now is actually advancing is because people are actually aware of this, and the reason why the price is actually decreasing is because people are actually demanding for this because of the awareness that exists right now.
Yes, people are demanding, but we have to take note that not everyone in the world is rich enough to afford them. And we can't really generalize everyone as everyone demanding, because there are still people who do not even choose to buy those energy efficient cars and those expensive things that are more energy efficient. And to proceed with my speech, I would like to say that some of the perks of technology we have enjoyed through the years has actually even relieved the environmental problems, such as creating planes that emit less carbon dioxide than the others. Imagine traveling 50 years ago where just a flight from, let's say, here, Manila, to the United States creates around 10 times more, I mean, emits around 10 times more carbon dioxide than the planes now, because technology was able to create planes that emit less um, carbon dioxide. And also, not all environmental problems are created here on land. So there's actually a huge percentage of emissions that are given by the planes, and also factories. So these things are not feasible to be removed or completely eradicated. So an example is, okay, so as so we also think that technology sometimes give irreversible damage, and we believe that developing these technological solutions for it's far more beneficial in order to lessen or eradicate those irreversible damage. And another is the world is evolving and we can no longer live without these technologies, and it is important to change, and it is much more difficult for people to change their lifestyle. Like example, can you live without your phone? Can you live without using a plane? Can you live without um like using your computers that actually give off so much radiation, including our Wi-Fi, our 5G, our 4G? So when we give more importance to these technologies, technological advancements, I mean, if we give more importance to these, we can both move forward and be more cost efficient and energy saving, and we can save the world together in a more and advancing at the same time. So therefore I believe that we are better than our opening government because we were able to give more detailed solutions and a more detailed proposal of in order to give um in order to save the world through giving more attention to technological advancement compared to changing the lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you, member of GOV, for that fine speech. To open the case for CO, I invite member of GOV.
Check. Am I audible?
Yep, you're audible.
Okay. Go by Shide. If you want to do POI, just mute yourself. I would probably accept one at 5 minutes mark. Hold on, let me arrange my paper first. Yeah. POI, true unmuting yourself because I won't be looking at the chat box. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, let's just wait this debate, right? Why CO is over OG, right? In order for OG's case to run, they have to prove why collective movement is A, not existing, or even if it exists, this is still not enough to the society in the status quo, right? Or B, why collective movement is not important at all to begin with, to the point they choose to champion developing these technologies, which is really, really expensive to begin with, right? They never proven to us why is it accessible also to all layers of society or country regarding these technologies. Secondly, why CO is over CG is exactly because they haven't proved to us why they need to compromise with people's lifestyle, right? They told us why is it really hard. Why is it really hard? It's really hard to actually shift people's lifestyle and whatsoever. But notice government has really that big bargaining power to actually shift people's lifestyle, right? But then, I'm also going to prove you later why is it so accessible to shift people's lifestyle. But then why CO is over OO is exactly because they haven't proved to us why then the society will have this likelihood to why the society will have this likelihood to actually sway the behavior of all layers of human, even if people in the gray area panels, they haven't characterized people in the gray area. How can then people in the gray area could be swayed, right? And how these benefits could be manifested into how they stated on how there will be a shift off market and whatsoever, right? And then we say that the debate should not only talk about individuals' behavior and consumerism, right? We also need to talk about the more bargaining power that will be given towards the companies and how that could really be harmful. Now, moving to my first rebuttals, right? On how government set up the house told you on how they will have this drive for the society to actually change, right? We never say that this is impossible to begin with to actually change the mindset or drive the society into a change, right? But what makes it harmful to begin with is because
Sorry,
yes.
you got cut off just like around 10 to 15 seconds ago.
Okay, so should I resume my speech?
Yeah, you're now audible.
What is the last thing that you heard actually?
First rebuttal and like some words, but yeah, has not really catch the meaning. So you can begin with your first rebuttal.
Okay, I'm resuming my speech in 3, 2. Oh, I stopped at 1 minute's mark. I'm sorry. Well,
I think
yeah.
around 1:30.
1:30. Okay. Resuming my speech in 3, 2, One. Okay, first rebuttals, right? They stated on how they could actually direct the society. Firstly, we never say that this is impossible to begin with, but what makes it harmful under government side of the house is first, the government never explained to us why their costly technology is going to be accessible to all layers of society to begin with. Secondly, they never proved to us why the society will still live by preserving environment. Exactly because we see people are already trapped in this lifestyle that are indebted, which is using plastic. They never and they prefer to opt into easier and more comfortable life, right? It's really hard for them to actually opt out from their comfort zone. Thirdly, they stated on how firstly, they said how they will give more budget to people, right? But then we question more budget to people is also not going to be significant panels because A, the budget needed that is super big and it's so hard to provide equal welfare to create these technologies to all country. Then B, even if that's possible, not all country have the capacity to make it and whatsoever, right? So this thing has to be proven by government side of the house. Comparatively, under our side of the house, when CO stated about how people lifestyle cannot be changed, we do not compromise. We say that it still can be changed because why? According to the interest of the environmentalists, they do not even care with the habits or the lifestyle of society, right? What they want is actually to preserve and change the current situation of environment, right? Changing their behavior is what this environmentalists want, right? But we need the policy to be enforced to the society, right? We need to protect the environmental that is going to explode, right? That's the principle of environmentalists. So the environmental issue matters more than people's individual opinion and also people's indebted character by the tradition that they have in harming this environment and whatnot. The environmental issue matters more than people's personal opinion and issue. But then moving to my substantive argument, we say how we can create a lesser check and how government side of the house could create lesser check and balance to the company, and comparison we can create a symmetrical bargaining power and bigger check and balance, right? What is the problem that is going to happen under team government is if you want to make a resources, the fiat or the prerequisite that needs to be resources and money, right? These things are what the society and the government have to begin with. All these technologies depend to all companies that have the capacity to create these types of grand technology that could be manifested into how then by the hope and the expectation coming from the government or society that would give everything they have because they already have the step. They are already desperate to begin with because how these environmental issues are really prominent in the current time span, right? Why is it likely? First, why is it likely for the company to have bigger bargaining power? Hence, there will be a lesser check and balance, right? Firstly, they are given full autonomy by the government for these research and development of technology, right? Secondly, government and society rely so much on these companies that are legitimately having this possibility to extract the resources enormously because they're pushed by the government to create such technologies in a short amount of time, right? To actually preserve the environment and mitigate the climate issue. Thirdly, the companies justify this wrongdoing exactly because A, they feel like they can solve the problem eventually because of the technology that they have created or they will soon create. B, they justify this part as part of the research to find the perfect fit technology as soon as possible, right? Then what makes it harmful? This is harmful due to 4 reasons. Exactly, panels, notice the characterization beforehand that the government and the society really realize on these companies is really harmful. What will exactly happen is there will be a less and check and balance towards these companies because A, these companies is the only solution regarding the environmental preservation, but B, exactly, panels, government told us that these companies are capitalistic to begin with and having this high bargaining power, right? This exactly supports our case, right? Exactly, because then now government cannot contest on how government has the same symmetrical bargaining power with these companies to actually shut these companies down and hold them accountable. But then see, there is this possibility of how these companies will manipulate or weaponize the autonomy given by the government since they are profit oriented. They want to be super lucrative. The inherent interest of the companies and they work by capitalistic behavior. Also, OG told you about Volkswagen cheating, right? Panels, this proves to you on how these companies are really profit oriented to begin with. But then fourth reason, so instead of solving the issue, what will happen in the government is they are prolonging the issue. Then moving to my second substance on how we can create a better incentive for individual to preserve environment, right? What lacks in OO is how they never prove to us why the incentive of individual is lesser under government side of the house. Exactly, because if we're talking about incentive, government can easily contest it by saying that the incentive exists among people, like how people in Europe live with zero waste, right? This climate change requires collective effort. So no matter how good the technology is, the society do not even if the society do not even care, then it would be nothing, right? Why is it likely? They already have the safety net, which is company that this technology can solve the problem and whatnot. Since they have put so much expectation and justification to these companies, right? that made the effect that has extracted the resources and money to begin with. Notice that people that are not aware of these kind of issue are people living in a developing country that does not know the urgency of environmental preservation, that are lacking of knowledge and are trapped in the narrative that environmental friendly is hard. Whereas biggest contributor of emission is which is the developing country that needs to produce enormous amount of money products to boost their economical but do not have the capacity to create technology that can create a green technology to reduce or recycle the waste, right? Comparatively under our side of the house, we can ensure you that there will be also a better innovation on the market. COO has told you on how there will be a shift on market base of the demand. This is
POI.
likely to happen. No, it's already 6 minutes. This is likely to happen because we'll still continue campaigning on promoting sustainable lifestyle, right? Hence, what will happen if we can create this inclusive lifestyle of people and in preserving environment? People could actually opt in, because what happened in the status quo is how people think that environmental preservation is something exclusive only for the rich, exactly because of the product that is really, really expensive to begin with. So proud to post. Thank you.
I thank that speaker for that fine speech. To close the case for government, I invite Government Whip.
Hello, first of all, am I audible?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Okay, so preferred pronouns, she, her, preferred POIs. I preferred through voice, but please, before you say your POI, I'd appreciate if you say excuse me to avoid me from distracting my speech. So yeah, starting my speech in 3, 2, wait, I'll wait. So starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Chair, notice how everyone has been talking about trying their best to solve the issues on the environments. They've been talking about how these corporations would work it on and how it would be very detrimental on the environment, so on and so on. So basically, what I got from the whole opening bench is this. In the best case of OG, they've been talking to you about how these effects of climate change is already existing and why it is important for us to provide the solution. And secondly, they've been talking to you about the use of technologies, the importance of the role of corporations and how they would provide technologies for a solution. Although we would understand how the whole opposite side have been talking about its negative impacts on technology, we would like you to understand that these reactionary and towards these corporations would create or would amplify the wake-up call for these corporations to do something with how they would handle their issues at the end of the day. Secondly, on the part of the whole opening opposition, what we get from them is that people should take accountability for change, and we have been talking about the problems of consumerism at the end of the day. Firstly, on that, it is not only present in the context of solving the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have to consider that. Secondly, humans have wants and needs, and I think OO was disregarding that, and wherein consumerism will not really affect the context. Actually, it even have a positive impacts. For example, number 1, it increases economic outcomes. Secondly, it provides opportunities for the people, improves quality of life, and so on and so on. And what I got from the closing opposition is basically this. We have to change the current situation. We need to have policies and solutions on how we solve environmental issues, which will be present in my speech. Thank you for that. Only I want to rebut on how she was trying to argue that what the people stands on environmental issues does not matter. Like on O, I think we should also consider how important it is, because it amplifies a wake-up call to do something about it, wherein it both benefits the companies and the people. Despite the companies' imperfections in trying to solve this case, there is this existing accountability of governments to regulate this corporation. So yeah, to continue on my side, I would reiterate the best case of closing government and why would you go for outside. My member told you about how technology is the best solution. We would provide extensions and arguments to them. I would provide a contextualization and comparatives as to how it would work. So basically, the whole sense of closing government is this. We're going to prioritize the development of technological solutions in order to promote sustainable lifestyle. You see here, Chair, that you are hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. If we tend to prioritize developing technological solutions first, it would be easier and possible for us to promote a sustainable lifestyle at the end of the day. And here are some of the few reasons why. First, if we would always reiterate how promoting sustainable lifestyle is important. Yes, because it saves energy, because it has reusable alternatives, wherein we've been talking about how recycling is important. This is important, yes, but it is also achievable. It is not achievable if it's not implemented properly. This is where we show the importance of prioritizing developing technological solutions at the end of the day. And secondly, how how it is also important that sustainable lifestyles would promote on catering eco-friendly products. This is not just a cloud or trend that what we'd see. Actually, I would like to put a characterization how this existing situation developing technological solutions shows how it's just more important that cloud. We can see here that the impact of this trend on using metal straws, saving plastics and paper bags, stuff like that. We're going to see how individuals have also a role in promoting sustainable lifestyle, not just through developing technological solutions at the end of the day. So here is why for further extensions as to why it is important, why we would push on prioritizing providing technological solutions first in order to achieve this sustainable lifestyle that everyone has been debating about since the start of the debate. Firstly, I'll give you an example on one of the solutions that could be possible and achievable. Firstly is on renewable energy. Because it is renewable energy, experts such as geoengineers are responsible for this one, wherein they will provide on catering on solar panels, hydropowers, and the positive outcome of this is that it could be much cheaper, especially if it's being regulated by and financed by the governments. Secondly, one of the good solutions of this one is to monitor environmental status, and it is not going to be achieved if it is not implemented. So in here, this one of the solutions, it will be regulated and monitored by the government.
Excuse me, POI.
Wait, let me finish my speech. Because it aims to know how to take the matters addressed. These records will be used on monitor environment status, will be based on how our experts will do or address the matter at the end of the day. And thirdly, why one of the importance why we have to prioritize developing technological solutions first, because technological solution also gives a healthy competition to produce more tools to help the environment and whatnot. So we see here, Chair, that when everyone, what the goal of everyone here that wants to promote sustainable lifestyle through the use of technological solutions, you should go with our side because in
Excuse
our
me, POI.
yes, okay, I'll take the POI. Go.
Okay, assuming that everything is really accessible for all layers of society, how can you prove that this technology under your side of the house is going to be significant towards the mitigation of environmental issues?
I already reiterated in my speech how there are already pre-existing developing technological solutions that could help. What I've been trying to argue from the very start of my speech is why it is important that we should also prioritize this and we should look more into this, because if you notice, Chair, no one from the houses has been talking about actual solutions. It is in our side that you can see actual solutions that's happening, and I feel like the only burden of the closing government side is to show you that how it will be implemented despite the existing flaws that these technological possible fallbacks in these technological provisions provide. We have also to understand as well that when the whole opposition has been talking about like how it will impact individuals as a whole, we have also to understand that the individuals have a role with how they react towards this environment. You see here how corporations aside from how they're arguing they're just gonna profit from it, it's not only like that, Chair. You also see how the reactionary of these individuals would provoke these companies to do something about the problems on how they address the solution. So you are not just targeting one way or another situation or solution in this, Mr. Chair, but you're actually you're also promoting healthy competition between these companies while you're trying to solve these existing issues on climate change in order to promote this sustainable environment. So to sum up my speech, we have talked about how people alone is not enough, and we actually have people existing who are actually doing it. Secondly, technological exists for a reason, and lastly, why you should credit CG among our openings, because first we promote sustainable lifestyle as we pretend to prioritize on technological advancements. I already provided some examples to that. And secondly, characterization shows us that we can achieve both sustainable lifestyle and technological solution. With that, I'll end my speech. Thanks.
I thank Gov Whip for that fine speech. To wrap the entire debate, I invite opposition. Yeah.
Check, am I audible?
Yep.
Wait, give me a second to set up my camera, please. So my gender pronoun is he, him, POI. You can type it on the chat box because I would not like to be interrupted. So, wait, my laptop is a bit freezing. Okay. I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Structure of my speech is simple. I'm gonna first engage with OG, next to CG, and last features opening opposition. Why we champion this debate, right? Firstly, on opening government, their biggest downfall is that they don't even picturize as to what technology will be used and how significant will it impact it, right? But by the way, CG also failed to do this. The only way for them to have a significant change is when you have a massive technology that is non-existent in the status quo. Meaning to say, you need tons of money and resources for the research, right? This context directly support our case on how it will give a higher bargaining power for the company to even exploit the land even more, right? Secondly, you're going to give a massive power for companies so that they can do research, making all of the harm under our side become significant. Secondly, the mechanization to support legislation, there is no personal analysis from them coming at all, right? This is totally unlikely to happen, right? Especially when you don't campaign at promoting sustainable lifestyle at all, making society think that all climate change can actually be solved by technology. It means there's not going to be any kind of support for legislation change, but the prerequisite of having a legislation change is when demand from the society exists. Without it, of course, there's not going to be any kind of likelihood for policy change, making all of the case cover opening government become unimportant and unlikely to happen at all. Nextly, the biggest concern of them is that companies are cheating in the status quo, right? It's totally untrue because there are already tons of mechanization policy that prevents them from doing such things, right? It looks like how then government the status quo have a policy to actually give a detrimental effect for the company to do this, right? Government have the incentive because they don't want the impact of climate change becomes worsen. When it's worse, of course, the government will be the one to blame. Credibility on the line is something they don't want. The comparative is a lot worse under their side, right? This is where my member's case becomes extremely important, right? The loophole will be weaponized by companies to exploit the environment even more, right? This is likely because they will push by everyone to find a solution as soon as possible. It impacts into worse. It will actually worsen the environment issues, right? Making you have less time to live on Earth exactly because all of the resources will be taken away with the justification that I'm currently looking for a solution to solve the climate issues, right? And the worst case scenario, the researchers notice when researchers are totally unpredictable, right? It is likely to fail because there's also a lot of externalities that might impact the result of research, right? When this happens, there's likely that the company itself could not even find a correct technology that will give a significant impact towards environmental protection. It means that all of the money and resources you've taken away becomes wasted, right? It will only lead to wasted investment, while harms of our environment are totally irreversible. Like the planet is already being destructed, while we don't even have a tangible change and tangible impact every day. And the best case scenario, even if it is successful, it will be too late for us because the harm is already that massive, right? There's also likely that this technology could not even solve all of the problem and harm that have been done in the process of making it, right? Even where society already don't care about the issue at all in environment protection, right? Exactly because they think that, oh, technology will automatically solve the problem. So without the interest of society to care about it, of course, there's not going to be any kind of tangible change under their set of doubts. The comparative that under our side, society are likely to change. Notice this panel is important because the harm of climate change can actually be picturized by human, right? Like how you can picturize, you can feel that Earth are getting hotter and hotter by day. It makes them likely to change because they feel that the harm is that big, making them likely to change their lifestyle. So our campaign have a more tangible impact because it's more likely to happen under the shadow of doubt. What is the weighing against OG? Firstly, we show how flawed and insignificant their cases are. Secondly, we flip the case. We show how the profit orientation of characterization of companies manifests into more problem under the shadow of doubt. We clearly champion over opening government. Next, to closing government. Firstly, they try to say on how they champion the cheap technological change, right? First, there's no explanation why it would be so cheap under their side of the house, right? Secondly, it's totally untrue. They basically forget about the research just before you have this technology, right? It will cost so much, right, ladies and gentlemen? Secondly, this manifests into government shifting the money that's supposedly allocated for other projects for technological development. Meaning to say, society are also likely to be impacted. For example, they will have lesser amount of direct aid for society, right? It means that society will actually be impacted by this quote unquote cheap solution from the government side, right? Comparatively, if they really want a cheaper solution, our solution is the answer. My member has explained to you on how society is likely to change because people can feel the real impact of climate change, making them empathetic and likely to change their lifestyle. When markets demand on environmental friendly product rises, the price of this product will be cheaper due to the market mechanism, right? This is where the product will be a lot cheaper. So if they really want to champion a cheaper product, it will only happen under our side and exclusive under our side of those. Even if you cannot buy this rebuttal, we'll bite the bullet. Environment protection has always been costly and will always be costly. But what matters the most in this debate is the survivability of Earth that we champion under closing opposition. Secondly, they also try to say about healthy competition, right? Notice this is even supporting our case. Healthy competition means that more companies are going to harm the environment with the justification I'm funding solution for environmental protection, right? Exactly why the harm of this will be so massive. This harm that is undeniable at all. Notice both OG and CG have never even rebutted this idea because this idea that will make us win this debate, right? Most resources under their side will be exploited, and the impact will be that massive to the environment. But then, even if we're not by this, it's totally exclusive, right? Healthy competition could also happen under our side of the house. It's even better because the healthy competition is on environmental friendly product that makes this product more accessible to a lower class society, right? But then, even if I do not rebut this idea, notice that this idea is totally not important. They don't even explain what is the importance of healthy competition, so we don't get why closing government could win this debate. What is the way? Twofold. Firstly, we show their solution is non-existent and how it will only happen exclusively under our side of the house. Secondly, even further, we frame out the importance of this argument, meaning to say CG do not even have important material in this debate. Then, lastly, why do we win over opening up position? But before that, is there any POI? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Why do we win against opening up position? Firstly, opening up position's main argument is how they want to solve consumer risk because it is the biggest problem to solve, right? Firstly, it means that their benefit is totally contingent upon their ability to solve consumerism in the status quo, which is totally unexplained by them, right? The prerequisite of this benefit is our analysis on how people can picture the impact of climate change, making them feel empathetic and likely to make any change. So even by this argument alone, we already win this debate because we prove you the prerequisite of whole benefit opening up position try to portray. Secondly, the biggest reason why we win this debate is because the impact on our side of the house is certain that you'll give a massive bargaining power towards the company, regardless of how society will react. Of course, company will be impacted by this, like how you will give a massive amount of bargaining power against the company, because that's the prerequisite of any kind of technological development under government side of the house. So the impact under our side is totally certain. Well, then it actually manifests to how you give them high bargaining power that makes them unable to exploit the environment anymore. CEO's burden in this debate is to prove why government's mechanization will worsen the problem, and we managed to prove it under closing opposition. While opening opposition, try to take a big burden on how they will improve the status quo, which they have failed to prove. And even I think I can proudly say that we fulfill this burden better under closing opposition. This is exactly why we probably win this debate.
I thank Opuk for the fine speech. That concludes the debate. So for everyone else, if I'm not mistaken, you can leave the room first and wait until you're called back again for OA.